Fairy tales in Disney have taught us that stepmothers tend to be the evil antagonist in a child's story. Thankfully, reality often looks different, and stepparents are not the evil monsters that these stories like to portray. But what if one does turn out to be just as bad as we're told? This is the tragic story of a little boy by the name of Gabriel Cruz Ramirez. Let's talk about it. Gabriel lived with his mother Tricia in the quiet harbor town of Almenar in Spain. He was a quiet boy who enjoyed playing by himself rather than roughhousing around with the other boys. His mother only called him mi pescadito, my little fish. Gabriel's parents were divorced, and in February of 2018 he was spending time with his paternal side of the family in the village of Hotrijuelas, a very small town with only 70 inhabitants. Among them, Gabriel's father, his stepmother, and his grandparents. On February the 27th, Gabriel was staying at his grandmother's home. He left her house in the evening to visit his cousin, who lived less than 100 meters away from his grandmother. All that separated the two houses was a small dirt path and the main street of the village. That Gabriel never arrived at his cousin's place wasn't noticed until 6 p.m., when Gabriel didn't return to his grandmother's house. When he didn't come back, the woman went to pick him up herself, but they told her Gabriel had never come to their house. Immediately, all the neighbors started to look for the little boy. His grandmother called Gabriel's parents, who also immediately drove to the town to help find their son. The people searched for 2.5 hours and then alerted the police, and thus began the biggest search for a missing person in Spanish history. More than 5,000 people came and searched an area of 625 square kilometers. And all of them only had one question. How could a child disappear into thin air on a path less than 100 meters long? As one of the villagers later recounted, no one let their child out of the house in that time. Among the searchers were of course Gabriel's mother and his father, Angel Cruz. And also, on the forefront, his stepmother, Ana Julia Quesada. The search for the young boy was broadcasted all over the Spanish news at the time. Media vans were parked in every corner of the small village, and journalists were constantly knocking every door in the town. And while the search became more and more desperate, his parents weren't giving up hope. They each gave everyone that asked an interview, and asked people to hang little paperfish into their windows as to remind everyone that Gabriel was still out there. And always at their side was Ana Julia. The media spectacle around this case was pure insanity. When the speaker of the Guardia Civil was giving out information, he had to be held up by a colleague because of the crowding journalists. 700 calls reached the media department of the police every single day. And while all of this helped to spread the image of Gabriel, it also led to some bad side effects in the form of false reportings. 4 days after Gabriel went missing, they finally found something. A white shirt. Only a few kilometers away from his grandmother's house. The undershirt was hidden under shrubs and close to a sewage plant. Spain's Home Secretary himself made the news public. The most shocking thing of all, though, was who found the shirt. It was Gabriel's father and his stepmother. Even though a search team had looked in that exact area before. The police had another question, though. One they didn't make public. Why was the shirt bone dry and clean when it had been raining in the days since Gabriel's disappearance? Nonetheless, the police finally had at least some lead, and they sent out divers to comb the fecal water of the plant. And searchers were sent to comb the entire area again. What no one knew at the time was that the police now had a terrible suspicion. Jose Maria Escalera, one of the detectives, later told the news station that the police pretty much immediately thought someone took Gabriel. He recounted that after everything that the family told them about Gabriel, none of them thought the boy had just run off into the hills. Gabriel hadn't been a child that liked to run around alone. While he wasn't one to play with other children, he usually still stuck to them. That left only two options to the police. Either a stranger to Gabriel, or someone in his immediate circle. While the villages in the area are small, they are frequented by up to 100,000 tourists every summer, thanks to their natural reserves. The theory of a stranger was only looked into on the surface, though. The police thought it unlikely that someone randomly snatched the boy in a dirt path, and no one had heard any screams either, which only left one option to the police. Someone that Gabriel knew had taken him, but who? The parents both had waterproof alibis. The mother told the police she had had a stalker, but that man also had an alibi. The grandmother and the cousins were also questioned, but none of them seemed to have any motive to hurt Gabriel. Which left only one person, Ana Julia, Gabriel's stepmother. A woman that at least in the public eye stood steadfast behind her parents and was trying everything to also find Gabriel. The detective later recounted that the entire team thought the stepmother fishy. She had met Gabriel only a week after first meeting Angel, and within weeks had moved herself into Angel's home. Relatives told the police that it was Ana Julia who often took care of Gabriel on the 2 days a week he visited his father. They also told the police that most of them didn't trust Ana. Gabriel's therapist told the police that the boy had become more fearful since his stepmother had come into his life. Gabriel had told the therapist that he had felt abandoned by his father. But it was Ana's whereabouts the day Gabriel disappeared that solidified their suspicion. She was at the grandmother's house when Gabriel disappeared. And what the two women later told the police contradicted each other. Gabriel's grandmother said that the boy had dressed himself that day, so she wasn't sure what he had been wearing. Ana, on the other hand, said it was her that dressed Gabriel that day, and she gave a detailed description of what he was wearing. The only thing she left out was the undershirt she herself would later find. Ana claimed she had left the house before Gabriel. His grandmother unfortunately didn't remember which of them left first. Ultimately, it wasn't one thing that led police to being suspicious of Ana, but rather all the little things that the police deemed strange. It was her who always pressed the police to up the reward for any clues given. And over again, Ana would mention her violent ex to the police, who only lived a few kilometers away from Gabriel's grandmother. In fact, it was close to his house where the shirt was found. So the police decided to surveil Ana. Ana's past is no secret. She grew up in poverty in the Dominican Republic. When Ana was a teenager, she gave birth to a daughter, Ridelka, a child which she abandoned when she left the Dominican Republic for Spain with only 19. In the early 1990s, Ana would meet her first serious partner in Spain. The two married and Ana had another daughter, Judith. It was 1995 when Ana got Ridelka and moved her to Spain. The little girl was only 4 years old at the time. Not even a year later, the child would die, falling out of a window. The police assumed it was an accident and never investigated. Ana and her husband divorced in 2009. This husband would resurface once more when Gabriel disappeared. He told the media that the love Ana had for him ended when his money had run out. It wasn't the only time Ana had been accused of being money hungry. The family of a restaurant owner claimed Ana had gotten an old man to give her gifts worth more than 10,000 euros. When the older man got sick, Ana started an affair with another man. This man's sister claimed Ana had stolen more than 10,000 euros in cash from him. After those two instances, Ana married again. Again, the marriage ended in divorce in 2016. This husband told the media the same thing. The relationship ended when the money ran out. It was this man, Sergio, whom Ana later accused of being violent, and next to whose house Gabriel's shirt was found. On the 9th of March, 10 days after Gabriel had disappeared, 8,000 people came together to stand vigil for Gabriel. They made big banners, many in fish form, declaring that they would never stop looking for the little boy. In the midst of all these people stood Ana, with a loudspeaker, crying and declaring, "The boy will be back soon." To Gabriel's father she said, "We will find him soon, and then the two of us will get married." The police meanwhile was getting more and more frustrated. The media was following every family member constantly, which made surveilling Ana nearly impossible. At this time, the police still thought there was a possibility that Ana was just keeping Gabriel hostage somewhere to get money out of the family. Ultimately, the police decided to tell Angel about their suspicion. He later said that while at first he couldn't believe that Ana would do something like that, he was also relieved, because he was sure that she wouldn't hurt the boy. "I trusted her till the end," he later told the court. 2 days he would have to live next to the woman he now knew was the main suspect in his son's disappearance. It was the family that ultimately got the camera teams to back off. On the morning of the 11th of March, Ana left her house and got into her car. Unbeknownst to her, 2 police officers were following her. She drove to a secluded house outside of Hotrejuelas. The house wasn't visible from the main street, and a long gravel road led up to it. The little white house was hidden behind large bushes and an even larger iron metal fence that surrounded the entire property. It was this property where Angel had planned to move Ana and Gabriel. The only thing left to do had been the paintwork. The 2 police officers couldn't follow Ana up the path to the house, but that wasn't necessary. A camera and a microphone had been installed to surveil her every step. Salvita, one of the detectives, was on the monitors that day when Anna removed some wooden planks and picked something out of a hole in the ground in front of the house. Whatever it was wrapped in a blanket, and Anna put it into a trunk. In the car, which had a microphone installed, she started talking to herself. Here's what she said. "Where can I bring him? To a glass house? Don't you want a little fish? I will give you a goddamn fish." The police trailed her for about an hour to Vicar, where Anna still had her own apartment. Before Anna could get out, police surrounded her car. One of her neighbors filmed the entire thing, and in the video you can hear Anna shout, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me." After they put Anna into a police vehicle, one of the detectives opened the trunk, and their worst suspicions were confirmed. Wrapped in the blanket was the dead body of 8-year-old Gabriel Cruz. Operation Nemo, as the case was called by the police, had ended with the worst possible outcome. On the 13th of March 2018, little Gabriel was buried and thousands came to pay their respects to the little boy. People were laying down flowers in the hundreds in front of a whale statue, which was named El Pescadito in honor of Gabriel. When his mother left the church, she only had one thing to say. The evil witch from the fairy tales doesn't exist anymore. Anna, meanwhile, was under constant police protection. Every time she was moved from prison to prison, hundreds of people came and tried to get to her. Salvita later said he had never seen hate like that. And if she wouldn't have been surrounded by 10 police officers, he was sure the crowd would have lynched Anna. It would take more than a year for her to stand trial, but finally, on the 8th of September 2019, the trial started. The prosecutor demanded life in prison for murder, while Anna's defense claimed that happened in the heat of the moment, and the crime wasn't planned. They pleaded for manslaughter. Anna's now adult daughter told news media that Anna didn't have a maternal bone in her body. Her own mother gave a press interview in the Dominican Republic, claiming Anna had been possessed by the devil. This poor woman then apologized to all of Spain for Anna's wrongdoing. The police even investigated the death of Anna's firstborn, but they couldn't find any damning evidence. The hate for Anna was mind-blowing, Salvita later recounted, whether it was in the news or in social media. On the third day of the trial, Anna took the stand. She claimed that the relationship between her and Gabriel, as well as the other relatives, was always good. Only once had there been a discussion with Gabriel, when he told her that her nose was ugly. But Anna claimed they later laughed about it. Anna also claimed that she liked Gabriel's mother. This would be disapproved by herself. The police had recorded her phone calls. A few days after Gabriel had disappeared, Anna had called her brother-in-law in the Dominican Republic. She told him, and I quote, "The mother is an asshole. A lot of people here hate her." It was only then, when the tape was played, that Anna showed emotions and started crying. And she continued to cry as she described what had happened. She had stopped Gabriel on the way to his cousin's house and got him into her car. She claimed she wanted him to help her with painting the house. They were supposed to move in together. There, Gabriel started to play with an axe and she told him to stop. Then she claimed that Gabriel started screaming at her, telling her, "You don't get to tell me anything, black ugly one. You're not my mother. I want my mother to be with my father." Anna claimed she held his mouth shut then, to stop him from shouting at her. The next thing she remembers is letting him go, and that he had stopped breathing. She then left Gabriel on the floor, went outside to smoke multiple cigarettes. Then she made the decision to bury him in front of the house. Over and over she claimed that she didn't want to kill him. The prosecution painted a very different picture. Elena Fernandez, the prosecutor on the case, claimed that Anna wanted to get rid of the boy. She said that Anna couldn't stand the fact that she had to share Angel with his son. And even worse was the fact that he was in constant contact with his ex-wife because of the boy. All of this was made even worse by the fact that the family's therapist had told Angel that he needed to spend more alone time with Gabriel. This therapist also told the court that he could not imagine that Gabriel had raged at Anna as she claimed. He had been a quiet child, introverted. Gabriel's father also told the court that he had never seen Gabriel insult Anna. The prosecution claimed that Anna took advantage of the fact that Angel had to leave the town that day. She claimed Anna lured the boy into her car and drove him to the house, where she either pushed him against the wall or the floor and then covered his mouth and nose until he died. The terror the boy must have felt is unimaginable. The fact that Anna, who claimed it happened in the heat of the moment, didn't immediately call for help also proved to the state that this was pre-planned, as was the fact that Anna tried to pin the crime on her ex-husband. The prosecution closed by stating that Anna wanted to drag the suffering of the family out as long as possible. What she did was nothing short of a cold-blooded murder, on an 8-year-old child. On the 19th of September, the jury came back with a decision, unanimously, guilty of murder. With that, Ana became the first woman in Spanish history to be sentenced to life in prison. Before Ana came to prison, the other inmates painted the walls full of little fish. No one wanted her to forget what she had done. Her roommates in prison are in constant rotation. Not because they're a threat to her, but because none of them want to be in any association with Ana. Politicians meanwhile used the case to spew hate against people of color, something that Gabriel's mother put an immediate stop to. She went to a newspaper and declared that the death of her son shall never be used to spew racial hate. 2 separate courts checked the verdict, and they all came to the same conclusion. She's guilty of murder. Her earliest possible chance for parole is in the year 2049. Gabriel's mother later said that she does not think the punishment was hard enough, and all over social media people agree with her. Till today, you can read comments saying, "Burn the witch." So what do you think of this case? Do you think justice was served? Was there ever really a chance for a fair trial with the entirety of Spain against her? Or did that not matter, because she did kill him in cold blood? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again in my next video.